Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jay Do hosting from the studio at the Cash Compound. And what we're doing from the HQ today is a cash coaching hour. It is Thursday, June 5, and it is 12:11 East Coast time. And I'm here with my brother Jonah and Sergio so far. We've got another coach joining us momentarily, but we will just start out with a little intro from Sergio Loaiza, also hailing from the upstate of South Carolina and been coaching in this space with us for the better part or a year or so at this point. It was summer last year at some point. So welcome to the call this afternoon, Sergio. Give us a little update in your life and business here and tell the people what we're going to expect in the next hour.
Awesome. What's up, guys? Sergio Loaiza, once again, as you guys can see down below, with my company, Protect Your Legacy, partnering up with these guys, the Banking Bros. So super excited. My background is in marketing and tons of other stuff, but now I am transitioning into this whole space of helping people protect their money, protect their legacy, leadership, income, and more importantly, how money flows within your family. So yeah, excited to be chatting about that with you guys and helping people learn about the concepts that we talk about on the channel.
Wonderful. I love it. Okay, so here's the first thing that we're going to get into today. I would love to know what we're going to do about these pennies. Before we get into the save and spend system, Sergio, that comes out that the Mint, the National Treasury, the Nicolas Cage, I don't know, but we're going to stop making pennies at the end of this run in 2026. What are we going to do at this point? Inflation's killing us. Can't buy nothing with no pennies. So let's start there on a lighthearted note before we get into the good stuff. What do you think?
Well, to be honest, I hadn't heard that. I hadn't heard that message yet, but it makes me laugh because the other day something popped up on social media for me, and it was like a certain penny, the value of this penny on I don't know what market, but clearly people are paying $10,000 for this one penny. And
Yeah.
I was like, that
Yeah.
can't be real. Like that cannot be real. And obviously, I can't remember the date, but clearly it had to be a very old penny. And it had to be made with proper. I'm assuming are pennies made out of copper? I don't know.
They
What's
were
the
at one point,
substance
or
that
yeah.
were at one point? I don't know. So, anyways, I think it's funny. So I haven't really followed the story other than that. I'm like, you know what? I'm about to go dig through my little guy's piggy bank because if a penny is worth
Right.
$10,000 right now, we going on vacation.
All
I know,
right.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if those of you who don't know, I guess Sergio's kind of new to the conversation on that one. The penny, consumers are using the penny less and less, and it's obviously not a viable thing to be carrying around since 1978 or something when they stopped buying things at the general store in your town. And so the last run of pennies are being made right now. They have stopped the order. So RIP to the penny, 1776 to 2026 or something like that. Well, they didn't start making pennies until like 1783 or something. But yeah, that has been the headline for the last week or so. We're done. We're not going to make any more. And we just moving on up to a deluxe apartment in the sky, I guess.
Yep.
So we've got Jesse Durham on the channel as well. Jonah is now here. We've got everybody ready to roll. We had a little bit of a late start, but some of you have realized that week after week. We get started a few minutes after noon normally on the East Coast time for our Instagram audience. Hey, we just popped up there, the Banking Bros. Our YouTube audience, are we live on YouTube?
Yeah, we sure.
Okay. Our YouTube audience is also the Banking Bros. And we've got Jesse Durham on as well. He is one of our coaches here at the Cash Compound. And I already have been in a great conversation that was led by him on what he calls his roundtable this morning. So, Jesse, tell us about your foray into, I always say that word not well, foray. Your foray into marketing and spreading the message of the talents that you have, as you might say a lot on your channel. So give us a little introduction.
Before
Jesse.
we do that, let's give a quick shout out to Jake, who is tuning in from Greer once again.
Yes,
Jake?
all right.
Yeah, we're
Jake,
neighbors.
well, Jesse's dealt with. I've met Jake in person, and Jesse has been coaching him.
Nice.
So Jake has been on with us a couple weeks in a row.
Very
Jake,
good.
welcome back, man.
See
And
ya.
he was here with his son last week.
Okay.
That's
It was
right.
a +1.
I
Yeah.
like that.
All right.
I love it. Good to see you again, Jake. Yeah, I did just have a great conversation, and I appreciate you being in on it, Jay Do. we were having a discussion at our round table. So you can find me at durhamtalents.com, and on the YouTube channel, we host these roundtable conversations where we're fielding, people's questions, best practices, both from a personal and a professional level. What I would add to the conversation about inflation, seriously, on a serious note, now that we've had the funny one, is one guy that was in on our conversation today in his 70s. And he was talking about how minimum wage had been $1.35. It was a dollar something. I feel like he'd said $1.35. And he had said that after I'd said that, my first job was $5.15 of an hour of earnings, and doing hard manual labor, that first job that I had. And then here he came along and said, well, mine was, $1.35.
Well,
and
Jesse, were you in jail?
How old was this gentleman? $1.35.
In his 70s.
73.
Okay,
Yeah,
73.
yeah. So seriously, we teach people how to keep their money. We teach people how to save it. We teach people how to spend it. All this at the same time, right? And I just feel like it's more and more legitimately necessary for us to take that kind of private control with guarantees, because that's not going anywhere. These pennies disappearing are a real sign of a real inflation problem. And, I just feel like that's exemplified in that trajectory of $1.35, $5.15 to, where minimum wage is at right now. And I don't care whether you make, $10 an hour, $10,000 an hour. It's worth keeping and growing and compounding.
Okay, so I saw a news story, and what's up, Nelson? Nelson's been with us lots of weeks.
Yeah, Nelson is
What's up,
like,
man?
Nelson's got the tenure right here.
And I saw a article. I listened to an article that said it cost 13 cents to make a penny.
Yep.
Right.
What?
So it's something like 800 million or something saved by not having pennies anymore, like in a year or something. And then this article also said that to make a nickel is like 18 cents, but they haven't said anything about the nickel yet.
All right.
And I was like, oh,
we're going to hold on to that one.
Nickel's probably on its way out too. That's
okay.
That's
and
all I thought.
And I looked it up
Yep.
here using AI. It looks like the penny is actually copper plated zinc. I'm sure it was copper like 300 years ago, but it's
Did you see the
copper-plated
value?
zinc.
Did you see the value of the most expensive?
I have
guess what
not
it, guess
yet.
what it is, guys.
I thought I saw this past week or so that a penny was, am I thinking 7 million? What?
So the most expensive one that I found, 1.7 million in a private
$1.7
sale.
million.
In
No
a private
chance.
sale. 1.7 million.
For a commodity that's worth
Correct.
a
Face value.
penny.
Face value. That's better than Ticketmaster resells.
Yeah, that's crazy.
right
I
there.
didn't even realize
Yeah,
that.
that's the world that's what the world we live on. We live
Face
in, right?
value 1 cent. Resale value 1.7 million.
That's crazy.
Eat your heart out, Taylor Swift.
That's crazy.
Yes. Really wild. Yeah. So let's talk about how much money you were getting in some of your first jobs. Okay, we've all made $10 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we've all made $10,000 an hour yet, as Jesse mentioned, but I'd love to know. Jake Nelson, shout out to us. Nelson's got a few years on us, and Jake has got grown. He's got children who are teenagers. How much money were you guys making at your first job? Me and Jesse are very much similar ages. They change around the minimum wage, federal minimum wage and state minimum. There's some different things going on there, but $5.15 is what I remember as well. Now, colleges did not have to pay minimum wage. You guys remember that? So I worked on campus when I was 18, 2002, and colleges can pay 85% of minimum wage.
There's actually a bunch of recently over the last like a year or so, I decided to just keep learning, right? So I went and passed a few bookkeeping and accounting classes and courses.
Yep.
And so actually there's a bunch of different tax law, employer
Yeah,
law
right.
that they don't have to pay
Right.
the whole minimum wage. It's
It depends on what type of business you're doing, because you guys know
85%, that sort of thing.
Yep. So I believe colleges at the time had to pay 85%. That was the minimum. And so I made $4.40 an hour on college on the campus at college, working in the after school program, the late stay latchkey deal out there. But I worked at the grocery store for $6 an hour when the federal minimum wage was $5.15. At 17 years old, I worked at the grocery store for $6. Sergio, tell us about some of your child labor you undoubtedly went through. We've got an immigrant family. They were hustling, had their own business. Mom and dad
Yeah.
probably put this cat to work at 3 years old.
Yeah, we got to work early, but I think the most official one was at our family's pizza place. So, given that it was our family's pizza place, our family wanted to be very fair, and they couldn't necessarily pay me more than they paid my friends. It just wouldn't be fair. So, I got paid the same, but this is where it was different. I got paid the same, but it was a job that allowed commissions, and that's where it changed the game for me because the commissions basically came through tips. So it was how well you served the people,
Yep.
whether I was serving or it was how fast I delivered the pizza and how well I communicated with people, how I made them feel once I gave them the pizza at their house. So I started learning what I believe is one of the most valuable skills, which is communication at an early age at my family's pizza place. And it was game on. The goal was to see who could get back to. We were delivery drivers, most of me and my friends
Yeah.
from high school, from the time that we could start driving. So we were the crew, just slinging pizzas, right? Driving pizzas around. I think I've shared that. I can't remember if I've shared that story before about how the way we used to do it.
Yeah, I don't know it.
We didn't have
Keep going.
phones. We didn't have phones.
Yeah.
This story is hilarious because we didn't have phones. So guess how we got the pizza delivered? It was a lot of work. We would have to get the address as we took
Yep.
the call. We would then go to a little booklet. We'd find the address. It'd tell us it's on this big map on the back of on the back of our pizza shop. It's on D4. We would then have to go and
Yes,
find D
yes, I know what you're
and
talking about.
4, and we would have a little grid, and we would
Yes.
have to memorize that grid before we left,
That's
or
crazy.
take a physical map with us. That's dating me too in the back.
Little
I mean,
map quest. Little map
yes.
quest.
And
Yeah.
so ultimately, I'm not 73 years old, but still dating me because we'd have to memorize that little grid or take a map with us. And who knows, we'd get lost. If anything, we'd have to call back, have somebody at the front be like, hey, tell me which turn to take, whatever, because the phones were at least available. But yeah, anyways, I say all that to share that story because I think it's hilarious. But guess what? Sometimes we made $5 tips. Sometimes we made $10 tips. And it was game on because
That's
we were getting
double.
paid. I think we were getting paid like like $3.50 per delivery.
Yeah.
An hour, or I think it was $3.50 per hour, and then like a 50 cent per delivery on top of our tip. So we could eventually sometimes come out on top, $10 plus an hour,
Yeah.
but if not more. So that was kind of like that was my first go around. So I got kind of spoiled in that way because it was that type of job. And then from there, lifeguarding. I mean, so many different jobs, serving restaurants, and it was all kind of within that 5 to 7 minimum wage range.
Yep. So,
All right.
So Jake said that his first job was over at Winn-Dixie.
Winn-Dixie.
One of my first jobs was definitely Publix, the Publix grocery store.
So we were all grocery store people, right? Me, you, and Jake.
Yeah.
Grocery
store.
And you'd have to. I do not remember. I just don't remember. I need to go back and search my email and see if I can find some of those. Like the onboarding paperwork and whatnot.
You got it via email?
No, I'm sure. I haven't changed my email. I haven't changed it, so I've got it.
Oh, well, I'm just.
It's in
I
there
didn't have
somewhere.
email.
We didn't have email.
Yeah,
We
you
didn't have
have
email.
email.
I've totally got it. And
They gave us papers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned school earlier too, working at school. I actually went back and found the tuition and fee schedule when I started college.
Okay.
Actually,
Okay.
which I thought might be fun to look at. Maybe we'll do that a little bit later.
Yeah,
in
we
the
will.
episode.
I want to know what Nelson, if you're still out there, though, tell us what you were doing when you first started working. We're talking about inflation a little bit here. We got to talk about where the minimum wage may have been, or where maybe when you had no skills, so you earned the minimum wage, how much money that you started making in some of your first jobs. Jesse, how about you? Did you work outside of the house, or were you just chopping wood back then too?
Yeah. First job was manual labor at some public property that would facilitate summer camps and equestrian events and different things of that nature. So a big property that needed a lot of physical labor, and it was $5.15 in my first year of high school working summer.
Hustling. All right. Nelson says a little something. Throw it up there for us.
Nelson says he never computed an hourly rate. He didn't want to work. Well, neither did I.
Yeah, I didn't want to work, Nelson.
My only job was at the
That's
state
funny.
of Texas, even during college.
Okay, well,
we had
tell
a
us what
state
you did.
job.
Tell us what you did, or
state
was it a
job.
salary or something, or did you get commission? Would love to know kind of that era too. Tell us
He's-
when you did it.
He said, I didn't want to work. I
Right.
love it.
So at 17 years old, I started a job where the government was coming for my taxes, and it was at the grocery store. Those of you in the Southeast know Winn-Dixie. Shout out to Jake. You know Publix, and you know Bilo. So I worked at the Bilo,
Mm-hmm.
and
We don't have
it
those
was
anymore.
right. Bilo went back to Florida, and then it went away, I think. So Winn-Dixie is Florida as well, right? I don't know why Florida has the grocery stores. And so I was making $6. I just turned 17. It was like the end of the month, February 2001. So I mean, this is like 6 months before 9/11 is when I started hustling at the front end cashier and bagging at the grocery store. Liz, what were you doing at $6.50 per hour?
Yeah, Liz
Would
said
love to
that
know.
earlier. Ask her what
Liz
she's
is
up
in the
to.
Pacific Northwest. She's younger than I am, probably by 10 years. What were you doing for $6.50? I would love to know. So this is why we brought up the inflation idea. We brought it up because the penny is a very interesting topic right now. It's kind of relevant in our news cycle, but because of government spending and because of the way competition works, parts of inflation have to do with competition. No question. We never talk about that because the government outspends things like crazy. And if the government creates currency, which they do through the Federal Reserve, and they allow banks to fractionally send money out into the marketplace, that causes the money supply to expand, and therefore the value goes down. That's what inflation really is. The value of things is dropping like crazy. There is inflation outside of that, but you guys need to remember that the value of money has dropped since the Fed came into play like crazy. So that's about 1913. And so, sure, there is inflation from 1783. That's the actual official time. No, I'm sorry, 1793, I think is what it said, when the penny came into place and we started producing some.
Yep.
But 1793 to 1913, sure, there's inflation. Not the kind in the last 112 years.
Yep. Do you see Liz talking about working at Taco Bell?
Taco Bell. Not
What?
She put the thumbs down.
I
just
would have
played-
been
I just played
been
the sound.
killing those chicken stop tacos. They were
Oh, I
69
know.
cents back in my day.
Come
They're
on.
69 cents.
She
73
says-
with the taxes. 73 cents.
Yeah, she says they wouldn't let her in the dish pit. She was too young.
The dish pit is probably where you wanted to be, though, so you didn't have to deal with customers.
Maybe. We'll see what she
Oh,
says.
they wouldn't let you out of the dish pit.
Oh,
No,
out
that's
of the
what
dish pit.
Yeah,
out of
no.
the dish pit. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so maybe not. Okay.
But hey, but speaking of Taco Bell is changing the game.
Why?
Like they're evolving. I mean, I went through the drive-through the other day.
You
And it was
know
cooked.
better than to go through. You
No, wait.
What do
we
you
gotta
know
wait.
better than to go to Taco Bell. I
What
ain't
do
been
we
there
eat?
since
What do we
since
eat?
9/11.
Listen. AI, my order got taken
Oh.
completely by AI. Boom, one and done. I'm in, I'm out. But the guy behind me, I'm in a small town now. Keep in mind, the guy behind me, I'm still in line and I can hear him. Dude is cussing out the AI machine
Yes, yes.
and pulls off, like just skirts out. And he's like, I was like, whoa. And I look at the lady when I go pick up my food. Like, did he get mad that it wasn't a real person? She's like, yep. I was like, that's amazing.
That's crazy.
Oh,
that's
man.
something.
Okay, we got a couple comments here we should address real fast. Okay, so Nelson saying, back to first jobs, he was saying he believes his first monthly paycheck, about 1974, was around $1,000 before taxes,
Okay.
and it increased from there as he advanced in different positions.
Okay, so he was working for the state of Texas. We think around that Nelson, about that Nelson job. I wonder what that was. $1,000 in 1974.
That
This
seems
man
like
was
a
making
bunch.
money.
Yeah, that seems like a
I
bunch
didn't
of
make
money.
$1,000 at the grocery store.
Yep.
40 years later.
Okay, we got Liz chirping back in about Taco Bell, saying wanted out of the dish pit, wanted in the front. But she's left-handed. They didn't have any left-handed meat scoops.
Oh, get out. I'd suffer. I'm left-handed as well. Anybody else out there left-handed? You can't cut things. You guys know that left-handed people, they didn't make scissors for you. Scissors are backward for left-handed people. You know that, right?
I mean, I think
Crazy.
Who knew the meat scoop was
I think I
also?
knew. You could surely get left-handed scissors now, 2025. Surely.
I wouldn't
I
know how
think.
to use them.
All right, here we go. We've got one more. This is important. I can't read the name because it looks like it's just in a different language, but asking what we're doing. So that's a great question. And let me kind of walk you through what our purpose of this hour is. So this is our cash coaching hour. And we are coaches here at the Cash Compound, and we teach the infinite banking concept. That's what this hour is all about. We want to field your questions about all things general finance. It really doesn't bother us what you want to ask about. I've got some more comments to read, so I'll get to your questions. XO LO20, I think. I'm coming to your question. But what we want to do is we kind of want to walk you through what we believe to be true about finance, about financial awareness, and about financial education. We have discovered, and we teach people every single day, a very, very, very powerful financial concept. And actually, as we run that financial concept through what we like to call our 8 ideals, these what would you call them? They're
Categories.
Their benefits,
Yeah.
attributes and benefits of this plan that
Right.
we love so much. We realize it stacks up a little bit higher, better, more efficient, safer than anything else out there when you're talking about savings vehicles, investment vehicles. We have a lot to say about it. And so we started this episode and this live just chatting a little bit about what is happening with the penny, because the penny's being discontinued. And of course, that led us into an inflation conversation. And that's what we're doing. So I appreciate the question. And thank you, Liz. It is characteristics. Okay. Here we go. Let me get to this question here now. Can you make out the username there, Jeremiah?
Okay, so we've got XOLO20 says,
There we go.
thank you. Haha, I was worried. I was ignored.
I was curious of how that has been slowly draining us apart, or the reason, or what's happening.
Yeah,
Maybe talk
so
about the penny.
the penny, inflation, probably those types of topics. So first off, we use a lot of electronic money, right? So money is we use fiat currency, meaning it's not backed by anything. There's a bunch of it. It's floating all around, and the government orders money. Basically, they put in an order from the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve allows for the money supply to increase.
Yep.
They give it out there to banks. And basically what happens is banks are allowed to lend way more. For every dollar that goes into a bank in deposits, they can lend typically 9-10 times that much out. So the money supply increases like crazy. And you've got to realize that the government is borrowing these dollars.
Yep.
So all of that put together is basically what the inflationary crisis is about. So if you've seen any news cycle fodder from Elon Musk and Doge recently, the penny, that type of conversation, you're seeing that the Congress is about to, again, after this whole big idea of Doge is going to make the government more efficient and cut the spending, that in the last 3 or 4 days, Elon Musk says, I am very disappointed. I'm agreeing with those Austrians out there. If you know us, you're agreeing with the people who think that economic theory is not sound in this country at all, because the government is practicing actively unethical behavior, immoral behavior with money. And we're basically, there's a couple ways to think about it. They're basically borrowing against future generations' power, because the future generations have to foot the bill. They have to pay for it.
So Rob here said that to a comment you made earlier, prior to 1912, I think you said 1913 specifically, but the money actually increased in value and in purchase power. It did that from about 1865 to about 1905.
Yeah, so in 1913 is when the Federal Reserve was created.
Yep.
So up until that point, the government basically also was not in debt at all. They were not in debt. At the end of the war, 1865, right? That's the end of the Civil War. Wars are very expensive. They have to pay a lot of people. There are a lot of pensions to pay and stuff like that. And they got to raise money, and then they got to pay pensions to all these soldiers through 1912. And we even had a couple skirmishes and conflicts during that time. But normally, governments prior to that time, and these are world governments, plural, they basically did not have a lot of central banks. And the central banks were kind of created during that era, 1865 to 1912. And central banks allow governments to borrow money that doesn't exist and money that they don't have. They just pay it back in the future to whoever they borrowed it from.
Okay, XOLO or IO was asking a question. He's asked it twice now, so we got to get to this question here. It says, my question actually is on the 21 trillion the Bush administration admitted to. Where'd they get the money? And how will that affect us since it has never been used?
I know that. I don't know that one specifically. Like, I don't know the news story on that one.
I don't know the news story either. Any
Exactly.
of you, Sergio, you know it? Jesse, you know that news story? I didn't hear that news story. So XO, can you give us a little more detail on that?
But remember that governments get money, and so you help us out with this, but governments borrow money from a third party in this country, and it's the central bank in our country is called the Fed, the Federal Reserve. You probably heard all these terms.
Okay, you guys are going to love this. We were talking about our paychecks, first paycheck and whatnot. I found this video. I recently watched it on social. I thought it was fitting for what we've been chatting about. I'm going to play it here, and then we'll have something to chat about real fast. Let's see.
All right, remember to drop your questions, comments, and concerns down in the chat wherever you are, and we're going to get to them and walk and talk you through a sound money solution for you personally, despite what the government is doing. Joan, did you find it?
Got it.
Adorable.
But I don't have Medicare, so why is Medicare taken out of my work hour check?
It's called taxes, boo-boo.
Yeah, I understand that, but I don't have Medicare. You pay taxes for the things you buy. If I buy cheese, I buy $6 plus sales tax. I don't have Medicare, so I shouldn't have the tax on Medicare because I didn't buy that. Like social is $7. $7. That's more than a 12th of my workness.
What?
I only get 10 an hour. Oh no, I did the math wrong. What is a Michigan income? Why you gotta tax me for making money? You're laughing, but I don't understand.
That's what a tax is.
So what was the point? That's income tax. Income means coming to me.
That means income that goes to you gets taxed.
So what was the point of giving it to me if you're just gonna take it out?
Because the government didn't give it to you, the company gave it to you.
And the government's like, this is mine.
Yeah.
But it's not there. $15 in taxes? $15 is a lot for a high schooler. $15 was taken from me just because? But we don't even have free health insurance here.
I know.
So what's the point? So this will come back to me later. That 185 will come back.
Not directly, but you have to pay into Medicare so that one day if you do need Medicare, then Medicare will cover you.
I need you to use Medicare so my money not going to waste.
I can't use Medicare.
Why not?
I don't qualify for
When
Medicare.
you're old, qualify for it so that you can get my 185.
Social Security is also for when you get old and you retire because you paid into Social Security.
I'll get that.
You're supposed to
indirectly.
get that when you get old.
Like a 401k?
No. Every time you make money, you pay taxes. Then at the end of the year, you're going to file your taxes.
Oh, and then get it back.
No. Then the federal government is going to be like, well, where's ours?
Oh, it got half my work missed.
Yeah.
Poor boo-boo.
I saw that video the other day and I thought this is hilarious, and two, all the right questions. It really was. I think XO put that in there. All the right questions she was asking. My favorite part was just why don't you go ahead and use Medicare so my $1.85 not going to waste. Her mom was like, no, I don't qualify.
Wild, isn't it?
I don't
Oh,
qualify
man.
because I make too much money that they keep taking away.
Right.
Oh, goodness. So remember that governments don't produce any money. They take it from productive citizens. Jesse, what do you think about that? You're a patriot out there, and I know you got some thoughts and comments on that.
I do. I feel like the most interesting question I'd ever heard anybody ask around taxes was if government can print money or digitize money, why are taxes still enforced? Why is that still a thing?
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a level of control was the proffered response or the proffered answer, which just seems to make sense to me. Yeah. And I am a big believer in taking personal responsibility. You know, the fact of the matter is that you can create a private money system using properly designed whole life insurance, the way that we build for our clients and the way that we coach them how to use it. And, you know, I've done that for 10 years now, and it's just a different way. It's like unplugging from the matrix.
Mhm.
Yep.
What a interesting thing to always think about. And what I'm trying to fathom right now is when Doge came through. Do you guys remember that Trump offered his voters and the country this idea of the Department of Government of Efficiency, this accountability arm that was, heck, is this constitutional? Is this legal? Will the court shut it down? And Elon Musk, who we've all been thinking about and talking about for the last couple of years, is going to be the leader of the club, right? And Vivek, right, who was running for the Republican ticket as well. We're going to take control. Well, Vivek stepped out. It looks like he wants to be governor of Ohio. But Elon is going to run this program, and he's going to run it like he runs his other companies. I'm going to put 10 dudes in place to figure out where all this government spending is going. Well, I pulled up the Doge clock on the USDebtClock.org here, and it's saying that they have found $506 billion of government inefficiencies, canceled all sorts of crazy programs. We've had an episode about that on our podcast. Savings per taxpayer is $4,500. And if you understood how much money the trillions are that were in the hole, you realize that isn't even close to enough. I mean, it's barely effective.
Yeah. 36 trillion. I don't know how many trillions go into a billion, but a lot of them.
Well, let me help you
right?
understand
And I mean,
something.
it's crazy.
How many seconds? How much time, in a way our brain can think of it, is 1,000,000 seconds?
Nelson says, "Don't get me started."
Okay. All right. So we're going to our coaches out there.
Ozzy
Sergio
says the Dems are mad about it.
Right? Well, everyone's mad about it. I mean,
That's funny.
Elon is currently mad about it because the new budget that they're passing, which is Republican controlled in our Congress, they're like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The government spends money like crazy. It's not going to get better.
Yep.
All right. 1,000,000 seconds, Sergio. How much time is 1,000,000 seconds? We're going to figure out how much money a trillion is. How much time is 1,000,000 seconds?
No clue, no earthly idea.
Okay. 1,000,000 seconds is approximately 11 days, 11 and a half days. Okay. 1,000,000 seconds. How much time is 1,000,000,000 seconds then? I'm going to make you guess on this one.
Okay. How much time is a billion seconds?
Yes. 1,000,000 seconds is 11 and a half days. How much time is 1,000,000,000 seconds? We're trying to figure out how much money these trillions are that were in the hole.
I would say 5 decades,
It is 31 years.
31 years.
31 years.
Okay.
Okay. How much is let's talk about that distance, Jonah, between a million and a billion.
Yeah,
11 days
to 31 years.
31 years
is crazy. Yeah. And a trillion seconds? That was
trillion
coming next?
seconds. All right, Sergio.
Well,
how
that's
much-
I thought that's what you asked the first time. That's what I was thinking. Trillion years,
no,
would be
no,
like
that we went
decades.
from 1,000,000 to 1,000,000,000. Now go back or forward or whatever.
Yeah.
How long is a trillion seconds?
I would say in the decades. So I don't know, 2 decades.
Hold on. We missed it. Sergio, follow me. 1,000,000 seconds is 11 days.
Okay.
1,000,000,000 seconds is 31 years.
Yep.
A trillion seconds. We're already at 3 decades for a
'Cause
billion.
You're at 30 years.
Oh yeah, 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
So
was already
yeah, it
3
was
decades.
three
How much
decades.
is
So
it?
I said 5. So now, man, dude, I don't know. Let's do
Nelson's trying to
10x
help you.
at 30. Let's do 30. Ask ChatGPT.
Yeah. he's
Well,
trying to
yeah, I
help
could
you.
always do that.
Hold on. How long did you say?
He's saying 10x it.
10x it. No, it's got to be more than 10x. Let's 30x it.
Okay. So it's 30.
Okay. So what are you saying?
30
So
times 30 at that point then. 30 years.
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
years times 30 more years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Just
30 years times 30.
he's saying 30 exit. Yeah.
30
Yeah,
squared.
30 exit,
30
yeah,
years
30
times
squared.
30
decades.
years.
Yeah. 30 squared. That's it. We can figure this out.
Come on,
We-
Sergio, you can do it.
No, we can't. Yeah,
I'm
Sergio's giving
telling you,
us
that's
the
hard.
hardest things to try to like.
Yeah.
Sergio's giving us the worst answers that I'm trying to figure out.
It's all right.
Like, give me years, Sergio. Give me years, so I
Okay,
don't have
I'll
to
give
try.
you. So you don't have to do it. I'll get. Let's just say 300 years.
Okay, got it. Which is way different than 30 times 30.
Yeah, 300 years.
Okay, got it.
300
Well, he
But
said
30
30x. That'd be 900 years,
Yeah,
right?
it'd be 900. It'd be
this whole
900, but
time
I-
you knew the answer, Jesse. You was just being quiet.
Okay.
It's kind of fun to watch people struggle. No,
Right. Jesse taught high school, so he knows how to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
stuff like this. I got to type it in. So what does Jake say?
3,100 years.
3,100 years.
Uh-huh.
Okay. It is 31,000 years. A trillion seconds
Okay,
is
so
31,000, not 100, 1,000
we
years.
had to put another zero. Okay, we were
Correct.
close. We were close.
So what's crazy about this is think about how much money that is.
$36 trillion in the hole.
Okay, and our new budget that is
It's
about to
crazy.
get passed, I guess, has $1 trillion. No.
Yes.
Our government is spending. Our government is spending $1 trillion a year now. Something wild.
Yeah. They keep raising the debt ceiling is what they keep doing because they're spending. I mean, it's kind of simple. You can take it all the way back down to your household, right? Your income's got to be higher than your expenses. This is how money works. This is how math works. In the US, our expenses are higher than our income, and they're higher than our income by about $1 trillion a year. Is that correct? I think that's what
I
you were
think that's
thinking.
what they're saying this new budget is.
Our
$1
new
trillion
budget
a
is
year.
saying
But we're already in the hole.
our
36.
expenses are higher than our income by $1 trillion a year, and we're already in the hole 36 trillion.
Can
This
you
is not
imagine if
good.
every household was able to do that? How
Jail.
come we're not able to do that?
Jail? They would not allow not for a
Straight
moment
to jail.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. Who cares? That's where we're kind of at.
100%.
Oh, Jake
It's
was
really
saying he
wild.
got it. He's saying his last zero just didn't go in.
Sure,
he
Jake,
got
sure.
31,000.
I mean, that's what I was thinking. I just couldn't. I mean, the 30x.
right.
I knew it was
That's
there.
right.
I was close.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to partner up with entities that are not government sponsored, ladies and gentlemen, by getting involved with an insurance company that allows our money to be sound. Okay, that is very important to understand. We're talking a little bit economics here and there. We're having fun with it. But in the concept of the infinite banking concept, the save and spend system, what we're doing is we're grounding ourselves into an environment and a ratio of money that comes in. No matter if you get tips for pizza, you work at the grocery store, you work for the state of Texas, and you make way more money than everyone else. Nelson was the richest person in Texas in 1971.
$1,000 paycheck was a lot.
He was the richest person in Texas. How much of it can you keep? Can you hold on to? Can you keep? Can you work with this environment? Has anybody out there read the cash flow quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki's stuff? The income versus the assets, the poor, the middle class, the upper class. Jesse, speak to that and tell us how we are going to think about money differently than the federal government of the U.S. by holding on to money or using it to produce assets or income for ourselves. I love the way Robert Kiyosaki does it, and I think you've read those books. So what do you say?
Yeah, I do really like that book as well. Now I'm seeing your comments, Rob. Rob and I had a great conversation earlier this week, so I'm
Nice.
glad that he's here with us. It doesn't matter whether you're an employee, whether you're self-employed, whether you have some big business in this wide world, or whether you're an investor or any combination of those roles. If you experience cash flow, what I'm proposing and what we help people do here is that when you experience cash flow, however you experience it, there is an ideal place to put it where you can experience those characteristics, those inherent qualities that Jonah was describing earlier, where you can have a hedge against inflation. You can put it in a tax-free, like that funny clip we were watching earlier. You can put it in a tax-free environment. You can have privacy, you can have protection, you can have guarantees, you can have those ideals, you can have those characteristics by directing your cash flow to that private place where you own and you control. So it doesn't matter how you experience it from any of those cash flow quadrants, employee, self-employed. I mean, that's what we're here to propose, is that the big wide world is going to do what the big wide world's going to do. And we all have a role in it and a say in it and an opinion on it. But today, you're experiencing cash flow and you could own that and you could control it, is what I would say.
Yep.
Mhm.
I listened to a podcast episode. It's actually an old podcast episode. It was about 2 years ago when I first listened to it. I listened to it again recently. And there was an economist on this podcast. This is a person that used to work at a big banking institution. She is now an economist. She's a professor at a university, all these titles and names, right? And she gets on there and she goes, do you realize how much money Americans actually put in government sponsored or government controlled plans? And she highlighted one plan, the 401k, because that's a super popular one. So I actually just chat GPT'd it right here and asked ChatGPT how much money is sitting in 401k plans. And it says, ChatGPT says, as of December of last year, 2024, it's 8.9 trillion. And the lady on this podcast said, you do realize at some point with the government spending problem, with the debt ceiling that we have, the government has to go get the money. When some of this money comes due, they have to go get it. And where are they going to turn to? It's going to be all of the plans that they control or sponsor. She's like, you do realize that, right? And I'm not getting on this live here and saying, don't put your money in there because they're going to take it. I'm not trying to say that. I am trying to say, if you continually put it in a place that you don't control the environment, you don't get to make the rules. I mean, I think it's called the golden rule, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Whoever
He
has
who
the gold.
has the gold makes the rules. And if you
Mhm.
keep putting it there, you're subject to whatever they decide is next, whatever they decide is best, and they are not thinking about you making that decision, right? And so just like Jesse said, that's why we love so much whole life insurance, the infinite banking concept, because I want the control. I've said it so many times. As I get older, control has become way more important to me. I used to play games with numbers on the calculator, on the phone, on the computer. Oh, well, I can get this money at 2% and I can loan it here at 10% and I can do this at 1%. And I've just realized as I get older, I don't care about that anywhere as close to I thought I did. What I care about is control. I want to be in charge. I want to make the rules. I don't want anybody knocking on my door, sending me letters saying I have to. They're going to take. I just don't want it. I do not want it. I want to be in control. And that podcast, I went back and found, it took me forever to find this episode because it was like 2 years ago I listened to it. It just reiterated that point. And I thought, man, what a thing to think through and what a thing to think about.
Mhm.
It's pretty wild. So let me tell you what I've done for the last 9.5 years. Jesse and I started this. Jesse, Jonah, and I started this process around the same time. As I said earlier, within the same breath, 2016 in first and second quarter. And since that time combined, we've saved probably $1 million between the three of us. We've saved and kept $1 million of the income that came through our families, came from our labor, came from our pizza deliveries. We've kept it, and we've kept it in a non-qualified.
That means no government ownership,
Right.
control, or sponsorship.
Non-qualified contract level security. Okay, so that's where it is right now. The money is still there, and part of the guarantees of that contract, one of the ideal characteristics, it pays out in the future at a multiple, and it becomes ever increasingly available in equity, current today value of that multiple. There's always more of it, and it predates the tax code.
I got a sound for that.
Okay.
That's for all the people listening.
The tax code, as we know it, basically started and came into play in 1913. Hello, you guys with us? And since that time, the contract law that we operate under predates that. So there is no IRS income tax law at that point. There is no IRS income tax. Okay. They used to take taxes periodically to pay for those wars. You know, we got that date out there, 1865, the close of the Civil War, or the not so Civil War. The Spanish American War had taxes. That was about 10 years before, all 15, 20 years before this 1913 thing. They took taxes at those times, but they're always temporary.
Yep.
Okay. So at this time, it
Used to
became
also have to
mandatory.
Send them in.
What?
Used to have to send them in too. You
Right.
send
In
them
1913, when they came up with the income tax, it did not come out of her paycheck in Michigan. You had to send it in at that point. 1933, they said, we'll just go ahead and grab it out the paycheck.
Get out.
All right.
Yep.
So because we've been doing that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in the freedom aspect of what we're talking about, the control aspect of what we're talking about, we're basing our future money and cash flow inside a system that's outside of the government's spending problems and their habits and their confusion and their noise and their qualifications and their income distributions and their early penalties. We are just not in the game at all. You can try to be efficient inside that game, which I would highly suggest if I didn't know that you didn't have to play in the pool at all.
Right.
Yeah, so XO was asking, and let me answer and come back. He's saying, good advice, thanks. He's here, he's learning, not really on board with Dave Ramsey, but he's asking like where he can learn more. So XO, if you are still out there and still paying attention, you can learn more by making it to our website. So that's thebankingbros.com. You're also on our YouTube channel, I think, right now, watching this. So we've got some playlists set up for you where you can go learn more. We post videos maybe 1, 2, 3 times a week. We've got podcasts that we record right here in studio. We've got special guests. We've got all sorts of things where we can learn, we can teach you. You can learn, we can teach you. These guys that are joining us here this afternoon can teach you. We've got this down. We've been doing it. We're practicing it. We can walk you through exactly how this works. So if you go to our website, thebankingbros.com, or just stay on YouTube and watch a few videos, look at some descriptions, you're going to figure it out. And you're going to be prompted, actually, to give us a call. So it's go learn. We've got actually even a long form 1-hour video that'll explain the whole thing if you'd like. And then you're going to be prompted to call us. So when you call, you'll get one of us. That's not a joke. It doesn't route through China or something. It'll actually be one of us, and we'll walk you through it. Not only will we answer your questions, we'll talk to you about your personal situation. We'll walk you through exactly probably what we're doing. A lot of us like to do calls over the like video chat. So I'll log in and I'll show you, here's what I did, here's what I'm doing yesterday, here's what I did tomorrow, that sort of thing. Jake says you don't even have to be rich to start, and I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely was not rich almost a decade ago. I'm only 32 now. So when I started at 23, if you thought I was rich, you didn't know me as I was not.
Right.
And so we'd be more than happy to walk you through it. XO. So
Now, Jesse, let's go into some of the conversation we were having a little bit earlier and change the subject on people completely. And then I think we can probably close out with Jonah, some of your tuition numbers.
Yeah,
and
sure.
think about that for a second. But we are going to use a product of insurance. And this particular product is life insurance. And so I brought up a bunch of points this morning on your call that you led about actual death, which is not what we've ever mentioned so far on this call. Because we're using life insurance, there is a guaranteed death benefit component because it is whole life and it is life. So we have to die. So bridge that gap for us for a second. We've been talking about money. Most of us are in the understanding stage that we need to store our money in a better place. We want to use it and have it grow efficiently. But we're also attaching this to a product that is death benefit related. So how do those help us cross the bridge there? Some people don't get it. Some people don't understand it, or they lose out on one of the two aspects because both of these things are involved. How would you describe it?
Yeah, conventionally, what I would say is, like we were talking earlier, when people experience cash flow, however you experience cash flow in your life, the traditional route, the conventional route is you get that and you have it as a direct deposit into a bank. which is somebody else's business. Okay. And they're doing lots of profitable things. These banks, right? Beautiful buildings, best parts of town, well kept grounds, right? Banks are doing really well because they have that money to be able to use, our money to be able to use. And then governments are doing what they're doing. So there are all these big picture things where we're saying you could have that control that Jonah was talking about. You could control your money. There's a way that you could save it and spend it at the same time. So this idea comes from this book called Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. So that's the book that we read 10 years ago, where we saw, okay, I can put my money in a place where I have this privacy, I have this guaranteed growth, this compounding. But one of the attributes, because that place is whole life insurance that's been specifically designed from a mutual company that pays a dividend. So I know I said several particular things right there, but that's why Jonah's telling you, hey, watch our long form presentation video. And that's why I'm saying read this book. Okay, we're pointing you to these resources. But one of the attributes and one reason why we would pick whole life insurance is because it's got living benefits. So we've got access to money through our whole life, right? Whole life. We've got dividends, we've got privacy, we've got control, we've got all these living benefits. But yeah, because it's whole life insurance, it ultimately culminates in a death benefit as well. So that just means for me, my wife, and we've got our fourth child on the way right now, right? Growing family. What that means for my growing family is, thank you, I appreciate that. That means that there's going to be an income tax-free windfall to my wife and my children when I graduate. So it's a beautiful world where you can have these living benefits, you can have this death benefit, you're facilitating all of this. You get to keep more of the money that you earn in your lifetime, and then you're setting up the next generation. For you big thinkers out there, you legacy-minded folks, you're setting up the next generations at a whole different starting point. So they don't have to start from scratch like we did.
Yep.
What a great explanation of what's going on here. And I think some of our folks out there, like Nelson, if you don't mind me calling you out, they start to lose the connection when we talk about cash flow and we talk about life insurance. Now, life insurance can be confusing. We were talking about the last thing Nelson actually said was confusions. We were talking about the government and what they got going on at that point. But it can be confusing because life insurance is so misunderstood.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different types of it. And we've all been like, I don't know which one it is, or is it a company or something like that? So I do understand where people are coming from. But if you have something out there that you want to say on IG or on YouTube about connecting the idea of cash flow, however you experience it, like Jesse mentioned, and life insurance, please go ahead and ask those questions, because we did have to put them together. And earlier we mentioned on a different call, yeah, we do have the curse of knowledge. Sometimes we forget, where did we start from? How did we think about insurance? How did we understand money? What had Dave Ramsey programmed into us at that point? Or what had the Joneses said to us? Or HR told me this and I've been doing it. So we also have, I got mentioned this phenomenon, like the bias that we have. It's a bias, and there's a style of bias. Since I've been doing it this way, I think heavily or highly of it. I think that's the only way. Just because I've been doing it, that's the only thing I know.
Yep.
And so sometimes we have to expand our mind, and it takes a little bit of time. So
Yep.
we're getting close to the end of our hour, and we appreciate you being here with us. We will not be live next Thursday this time. So Nelson, go ahead and take a week off. We're glad you're here. But Jonah, I do want to go into a topic that you mentioned earlier about tuition here.
You
That's
asked,
another thing that's big in most families'
said
minds,
kind
is
of the
getting people to college.
comment, right? Where'd we start? Well, I can tell you one of the places I started with this tuition and fee schedule. Hopefully you guys can see it here. I found this on the website. Actually, I was scrolling through. I found the tuition and fee schedule legitimately of the school I was attending when I was attending. So this is 2012, 2013 for me. And I just kind of walked through. So at the very top here, it says the full-time residential student, which that's what I was. And if you go to the second column, it gives the year prices. So if we scroll down to the bottom there, it was costing $25,000 a year to attend college. And I thought that was pretty interesting for a few reasons. One, because what in the world are they doing letting a 19, 20-year-old get into $25,000 a year?
So this is
worth
you're a
of-
non-resident student from
Yeah,
the state.
I was not in state.
Okay, this
either.
is private school.
Yep. Yep.
Private school, $25,360.
Isn't that crazy?
State of Florida.
Isn't that crazy?
Okay. So,
Hey.
and you found this. This was the year that you did it. Like you went back.
Yeah.
How'd you find this?
I'm just the internet,
All right.
the internet's got all sorts of things on it.
Now,
Anyway,
Sergio,
I
did you
thought
go to
that
school in
was,
Florida as well?
thought that
I
was
did go to school in Florida.
Yeah.
And I went to a private school as well.
Yeah.
I played collegiate soccer down there, and thankfully some of it was covered. Jonah, I think yours probably was, some of it was covered with basketball. Were you playing basketball?
I
Yours?
was. I don't remember what was covered and what wasn't. I was.
But yeah,
not
mine
paying
wasn't that
attention
much.
I
Yeah.
was. I got to school and immediately bought a TV and an Xbox. I was not paying attention to what was happening in finances back then.
That's so
Uh.
funny. So mine was super expensive, so expensive that I had to, no joke, I had to leave for a couple of reasons, or I chose to leave my junior and senior year to go back in-state tuition
Mm.
because my family could not keep up. And when I say my family, I could not keep up. 'Cause there was nobody helping me. No, I take it back because if my brother ever watches this, my brother helped me. Even my brother, just a couple of years older than me, there was sometimes like, bro, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Like, I don't got money to eat. Even though I was getting paid to go there a little bit, so it was crazy. So it was basically right around that same price, Jonah.
Yeah.
But the next year it jumped up by like $8,000.
Mm.
So my freshman and sophomore year, and then my junior year was going to jump again, and I was like, "Yep,
It's a
I
wild
guess I'm
jump.
going back to South Carolina.
Gotta go.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
South Carolina, here I come." So yeah,
I love it.
which is obviously now for me one of the biggest reasons that I'm like, I am going to learn how to pay myself first for the rest of my life.
Yep.
That's a great term right there. So we're going to have to close it down, shut it down on that. Jonah and I actually have another call we got to get to. So we can't stay with you all forever, but you've got to learn, ladies and gentlemen, to pay yourself first. The money that you keep is more important than how much you make, actually. So you should be in the business of being profitable in the marketplace. Do not get me wrong. Go out there and create value and have people hand you dollars. No question about that. Get into some great conversations or provide people with services. 1,000%. But actually, keeping money is arguably more important than knowing how to make it.
Yep.
We want to help you guys all with Code Cracking Cash Flow, and we look forward to a free cash consultation with each and every one of you anytime you need to have it or you need to have it again, like my man Nelson, who we've talked to a couple times, Jake, who's already working with us. Appreciate you, XOLO20, and being on this live experience. We will not be here next Thursday. We are taking a week off, and we'll see you Juneteenth in 2 Thursdays from now.
There you
We'll
go.
be back live.
Sue, so sorry you just jumped in with some of the comments. We will get you next time. We appreciate you being here, and thank you guys. Click the link in the bio if you need to learn more. Visit our website. We'll see you next time.
We're signing off. Don't you worry, people. We just got a bunch of buttons to click.
You are now tuned to the banking bros. Said we couldn't make it 'cause we chose. Gave a lot of game, we never got a lot of things. Bow your head and say the prayer. We taught you how to be the bank.